Image better.
Alright, we're on air.
Oh shit, we are. Okay.
Hey,
Uh,
welcome.
Most professional.
welcome to the FSCast, hashtag FSCast Friends Simulator podcast. Today
Episode
is
4.
episode 4. What is the title of the episode, Miles? Give us that voice.
Resident Evil.
It is August 4th, 2015. And we are joined, as usual, today by me, Kirk Almighty, hashtag on your Instagram. I am joined by Hikikomori Media.
Hi, how's it going? Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, he's broadcasting live from his cave dungeon.
I've got natural lighting going today.
It's not going well.
Hey, it's fine. It's right here, and I feel
Yeah.
relaxed. It's nice and cool. It's been too hot this summer.
Yeah,
Getting sticky, getting pickled.
yeah, I'm getting pickled right now, man. Look at this. Check this shit out.
Take a bite out of that pickle.
We we have again as our super special guest for a second week in a row, Mr. David King. David, hey,
From King Game Review.
yeah.
It's leftover day. You know what I'm eating?
What are you eating, David?
It's spaghetti noodles
Uh
with
huh.
tomato sauce
Go
and
on.
tomato masala sauce and a
Interesting.
bratwurst
Jesus
and
Christ.
cauliflower.
Holy
That
fuck.
sounds so good.
And I'm drinking
So good.
cinnamon horchata ale.
Oh my god. You gotta clean shit out. Holy
What kind of
God.
combination?
Hey, those are the best days. The days where you don't have to buy extra food and you just, have whatever you got left over.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So-
we got
so
some
today-
topics today.
Yeah. What do we got today, Miles? What's our first topic?
Yeah,
today?
since I'm the one who postulated all of these topics,
I can't think of anything. I'm so
I
lazy today.
contributed to the well-being of the show.
Mhm.
Today's topics, number 1, why are storytelling games the cancer that is killing the industry?
False.
Number 2, there's an article that Nick Hay, there's a report about Konami and their treatment of their staff, and basically what's been going on for the past year. If you didn't know, they're restructuring Konami and they're not focusing so much on console gaming anymore and more on gambling games.
Yeah.
And then our third topic, what was our third topic?
Nintendo, where
Oh,
they should
yeah.
go.
Where does
Without-
Nintendo go without their glorious leader Iwata? So now I think enough time has passed, and we can talk about Iwata, because like Nintendo, they went for a month of silence, I believe,
Yeah.
almost. So they really haven't touched too much on who the new CEO will be. It's between two people, and Miyamoto's one of them,
Mhm.
and then
Some
they haven't announced a new direct or whatever they're going to be doing for the rest of the year. So that's kind of a lot of things are already in speculation about their new system, the NX. So we're going to talk about that. And then our main topic is the Resident Evil series.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we all have varying degrees of experience with this series. I have played and beaten every single entry, for better or for worse, except for some of those mobile titles.
Right.
David's played a handful of them, and Jarrett, he's more familiar with, I would say, the third generation or the worst generation of Resident Evil games. So we're going to hear his take on the series, and then there's been a few announcements, like new remakes and a couple new Resident Evils in the pipeline that I want to bring up and talk about. We'll close out the podcast from there.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
so David and I kind of got into this first topic before the cast, as we always do. We were talking about storytelling games, and a storytelling game is a game that focuses not so much on gameplay or unique ideas, but let's create an interactive movie where the player doesn't have to put any effort in except for yes, no, or I'm going to wear a blue hat or a green hat.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to decide to romance this one person or save this other person.
Yeah.
Instead of an instead of actual gameplay at the forefront. So David loves those games. He wants to see more of those games. He wants to see less unique ideas. He wants more QTEs. And he's told me all of this off the cast. He says this is what gaming needs right now.
Look, there's a place for all different kinds of games. Sometimes I like watching a movie that lets me interact every once in a while.
Yeah, a movie, and there's a whole industry called the movie industry.
Yeah, but you can't choose your own adventure in those.
Yeah, you can.
You can choose to fucking leave.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, well, I call these interactive novels, right? So choose your own adventure novels. So we have literature that already exists for that sort of person that doesn't have any faith in directors and thinks they know better than an entire team of hard workers.
Yeah.
But where did this all begin? Can we trace the origins of these storytelling games like back? I said Dragon's Lair was the first.
Oh, Dragon's Lair. Yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah, just full of QTEs. That's the entire game, and like, yeah, I'd say that was the first one because that was in arcades.
But is it a good game? Do you enjoy yourself when you play Dragon's Lair?
If I'm good at it, like if my reactions are fast enough and I'm not falling down every goddamn pit listening to the same death noise every time.
Play it on easy.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. But games like that and then Space Ace, I have Dragon's Lair on the Game Boy Color. It's fucking terrible, but it's not the platformer type. It is actually QT mode. But yeah, I mean, if I was better at it, I'd like it. I like the graphics though. Like Don Bluth is a really good animator, I think.
Okay, I gotta admit there. I mean, that was the main draw for me because, of course, he does some really gruesome deaths. That Dirk is the protagonist in Dragon's Lair. It's fun to die in that. There are a few games wherever it's almost like a reward in itself to die and like, okay, well, I'll get better next time. But I haven't played that one yet.
There's like a million different death animations, and they're all pretty funny.
It sounds fun, but that's a real game.
Respawn animations, I guess.
Yeah, what game?
That's a real game. Sunset Overdrive.
Oh yeah.
I think that Dragon's Lair, we talked about it has like millions of ports. It is a classic in a lot of ways because it feels like ahead of its time. It was revolutionary for the day. So I think it gets a pass, right? It did something new for the time.
Like the Telltale games.
Right.
Apparently Miles doesn't like them.
I didn't say that. I didn't say I like all of them.
I said they were the cancer that was killing the industry.
I just compared them to a debilitating disease.
Yeah.
My take on the whole matter is, when you deal with those Telltale games, I think they're kind of a dime a dozen. Like, they come out with they boast on all these promises that you're going to be able to change the world. The same sort of empty promises that the Mass Effect directors and BioWare said, oh yeah, all your choices matter. And I feel that many of these storytelling games, like, if you're going to come out with that promise, that should be your one thing that you capitalize on. Like, the end goal or the end outcome should be that reward, that fulfillment, that yes, my choices did matter. I haven't found a storytelling game or an interactive novel game that has really paid off in that respect. And, you know, Telltale, everyone's like, oh yeah, The Walking Dead, but no, I mean, without getting the spoiler, your protagonist in the first game meets the same fate regardless.
No, that's not true in the second one.
It is, for the most part. It is.
3 distinct endings.
Oh, really? Okay, can you list them for me? Because essentially, this is what's going to happen. You can either leave with one guy, you can go into the city alone, or you can leave with another guy, right? Yeah, but they had something like that in the first series, right? It's like, okay, you can either save this one person or this other person, and then immediately after that, the next episode, boom, killed them off. Okay, so it wasn't like it mattered at all, and I feel like that's what's going to happen at the beginning of Season 3. Sure, we'll know in Season 3, but with the history, this is all I'm going off, hard facts, Walking Dead Season 1 and Season 2, they had these open-ended choices wherever you felt like, okay, if I save this person's life, they have like technical skills, so maybe they'll be able to build me a fence or build me a weapon that I could use. Or this
Yeah.
person's good with a gun, so they'll be able to, save my ass later on. Okay,
Mhm.
there's one cutscene where they do that, and then bam, they're dead.
Hmm.
So I still haven't seen it capitalize. I would rather say that Telltale, instead of coming out and saying that you're going to make all these choices and they're going to matter, just say it's a linear story. And say, no matter what, you're just going to meet the same end, but you're going to have subtle changes. Okay?
Mhm.
That's not how they advertise those games. And I feel that it's kind of a problem because people go in with these expectations that it's going to matter. And it doesn't. They're all just like reading a book, and that's not
And
fun to me.
and then compare that to say like Shattered Memories or something where it's like there's tons of different things within the game that says
Right.
if you do this specific, even a super specific way, like okay, now the ending isn't completely different, but there is different things. It's like yeah, I got that ending, and it's like now I can get this ending. If I do this other kind of stuff, I can get this ending. Like
So,
there's a huge difference.
so what Jared's talking about is Silent Hill Shattered Memories. Now, this game came out in 2009, I believe. It came out for the PS2, PSP, and Wii, and we played it on the Wii last night. And David's beaten this game too, so David could probably speak on this. I feel that differs because it's not a choose your own adventure novel necessarily. There is some interactivity within the world, so you can like run and jump, and there's some skill at dodging. So like the distinction being that yes, there are multiple endings that you can acquire through the game, and when you interact with the set pieces within the world, there are interactive choices on the fly that the designers put in there that will change your experience with it. So no two players are going to have necessarily the same level of interaction. Whereas when you play a Telltale game, there are only three usually differences, or three different shades of magenta, if you will, that everyone experiences. For the most part, it's a cookie cutter experience, and I'm not saying it doesn't deserve to exist. I'm saying it just I don't think it's that clever as it seems to be. So maybe David, you could share some of your opinions. Why do you think that these games are so great?
I like them because it's like watching a movie.
Okay, and that's a passive relationship.
Yeah, I mean,
So
but it feels less passive because you're actually like making choices.
okay, what kind of choices? They're empty choices, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
but that doesn't matter. It feels they're interactive movies. It's fun. I sit down on the couch and play with Audrey, and it's like watching a movie, but we get to make like some choices.
Okay,
Regardless.
so as I said, that could be good in a sense that if you like introducing people of all skill levels, like like you like it's like a common topic. So a lot of people out there like The Walking Dead, right? I was a sucker. I bought into season 1. I enjoyed season 1 for the most part, but then I left. Like I never want to play this again. It's disposable in my opinion because there's nothing to go back to.
Mm.
What is it about that game like that has a lasting appeal? I think this is like for like 10 years from now, no one's gonna give a shit about The Walking Dead. Can we agree on that?
I play through once in like a sitting, and then I never touch them again.
Right.
So,
Okay, so they're kind of disposable. They don't have a lasting appeal.
yeah, I mean, I feel that way about most games, though.
Well, I guess you can make that argument, but I mean, like, if a game has for me, I believe that games should have some sort of win state, fail state that doesn't involve a QTE, as in like quick reaction times or fluid movement. So like if you play like a Hideki Kamiya game, there's a degree of skill that you need to get to the next level, much like back in the old days of arcade. If you didn't want to be,
game.
Of course, it is a different type of game, but it's not a game that I enjoy. I feel like it's kind of like
first-person shooters or football games. Doesn't make them any less valid.
I didn't say it's not valid. I think it's more disposable. It's like a one-off experience.
Like you were saying, there's not. Well, maybe you didn't say connection. I was just thinking connection.
Yeah.
But like you think it's disposable. Do you think it would have more since it's a movie or is it a game? Like even if it's that small level of interaction, is it more of a movie or a game?
I feel it falls more into the movie category, and I think David even, by his own admission, said that himself.
Well, yeah, but I'm fine with that. Like I think there's like sometimes I just want to play a disposable type game.
Sure.
Yeah.
Entertaining.
That's
Yeah.
fine. And I like The Wolf Among Us. I will come out and say it. It's an entertaining story. But as a game, there's nothing that I enjoy about the gameplay. It feels like a LucasArts point and click game, and those were fun
Yeah,
for their
those are
time. I like
awesome.
Maniac Mansion. I like Escape from Monkey Island. But
Yeah.
those puzzles were a little bit more obtuse and required critical thinking.
Yeah.
These Telltale ones, the threshold for completing the game is so low that
Mm.
it doesn't feel like I have any impact at all. And I think that's what the end goal for those developers are. Like you want your player to feel like they are having an impact on the world, and you want your player to feel like they have accomplished something. When I play through those games, I feel like I've just been turning pages the entire time.
Mm.
So, as I said, they're kind of just a cheeseburger of games.
Cheeseburgers are good, man. I love
And
cheeseburgers.
cheeseburgers cause cancer. You don't eat cheeseburgers, David. They have bread in them.
They have bun in them.
You drop that, smack it out of your hands. No, what I'm saying is they have the right to exist. I'm never gonna say that a game doesn't have a right to exist. I'm all for it. But Walking Dead won Game of the Year award.
Mm.
Okay, Game of the Year award. It didn't win Movie of the Year award. It didn't win Interactive Visual Novel. Okay, so what is a game? I guess we can get into semantics here. I don't
Yeah.
feel like The Walking Dead is a game, in my opinion. I don't
Mm.
feel like The Wolf Among Us is a game. I feel it's just a choose-your-own-adventure novel with interactive elements.
Yeah.
It's just a movie that you're walking from one scene to the next.
So, to what point of interaction or critical thinking can you say it's a game? Like Ace Attorney, that has a lot of critical thinking, but it is just a visual novel.
I would, I mean, even Danganronpa too. Danganronpa
Yeah.
does have, I would say, more depth and degrees. Maybe it's also quality of time or quantity of time spent. So you can spend more time in an Ace Attorney game in that world, and you can fail. I mean, like there are
Yeah.
points where you really need logic in the court case. I mean, you're thinking on your feet. You have limited resources and time sometimes. Like you need to think, you need to present this. So there's life or death fail states. In The Walking Dead, if you die, it starts you over right there at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you can say the same thing in Phoenix Wright, but I feel it's a little bit more difficult because they require you to really listen to your opponent and then press them on issues. Like, it feels like an actual, not a real court case, but it feels like they've really thought out more things and made it more unique and on its own. All
Yeah.
Telltale, they're reusing the same assets. So they have a really shitty engine that chugs on every system you play on. Like, so if you play Walking Dead or Wolf Among Us on your PS4, the frame rate dips in between interactions, and it's just so noticeably bad in my opinion. So I feel like even doing its own thing, being a graphic novel or whatever it is, it doesn't do it well. It's still, I think they need to have an open world, because like you can only work in a two-dimensional plane for the most part. So you walk usually from left to right or slowly up a trail, So I wish they would improve, and I want them to improve. It's not a thing like get the fuck out of here. I want to
Yeah.
see them, scrap the engine and start over,
Yeah.
from square one, and get out the fucking post-it notes. I want to see like a giant board. Okay, like if he chooses to eat the beef jerky here in episode 4, he's gonna have diarrhea.
Yeah.
Uh, I feel like every episode like only connects to the second one or the third one. It doesn't connect to the series overall. So.
Yeah.
David, you've been kind of silent on this matter. I want to know, like, because we've both played through The Walking Deads. We both played through Wolf Among Us. I haven't touched Borderlands. You say that's the best one, so I want to know, what do these games get right for you? Like, what about them works?
I play them and I have a good time.
Great.
They're entertaining. Like I sit down and I play through, and it's like 3 or 4 hours, and the entire time I have a good time. It's just like watching a good movie or TV show or something.
You keep using those words, though. I mean, but I'm trying to get out of you. Is like, what makes them good games,
Well, I mean, they're probably not good games. They're good entertainment.
right? Okay.
Mhm.
I just don't see it. In my opinion, game of the year is what bugged me. Is like Walking Dead won game of the year. I think it's influencing other things. Like if you play The Last of Us, have you either of you played that?
No.
I watched friends play it. Yeah.
Right. The Last of Us. David, you're a fan of David Cage. You're a fan of Heavy Rain, right?
I've never played Heavy Rain.
You never played
I
it. Which
like
one?
I liked
Which
Heavy
one did you
Rain.
play? It was Indigo Prophecy.
Indigo
That's the
Prophecy.
one you're
I like
right.
that
Yeah.
game a lot.
Game.
Yeah. You
Indigo
have to
Prophecy-
up the blood. and
Okay,
hide the-
I think Indigo Prophecy is one of the best things, and then it's kind of devolved since then. So, Indigo Prophecy is really interactive.
No, I mean I know what you're saying. I get
Yeah.
what you're saying. Like if the Telltale games were more like LucasArts games, then they'd be
Mhm.
better. Like if the puzzles were more puzzly,
Yeah,
you know, they'd be better. But also, then you couldn't sit down and play it in one sitting in like an hour and a half or 2 hours because then you'd have to think, and people would get stuck and never come back to it. Then they'd
right.
lose sales.
Well, the Telltales are built in an episodic fashion, right? They always begin with something like jaw-dropping, and then there's a really boring middle section, and there's a cliffhanger, right? That keeps you coming back.
Well,
It's kind of the lost.
I suppose they could
Lost
go more
World.
towards like the Broken Age style. That was episodic, and it was still like had puzzles in it and stuff.
It was
Yeah.
2 episodes. Yeah, it was broken up into
Second
2.
episode was
Yeah.
like triple the length of the first episode.
For me, I think those games, they're good-ish storytelling. Like, I mean, it's because that's what they're leaning on. Okay, but I think it's kind of cheap. Obviously, like they could do much more with their world. So if you're not focusing on building AI, and if you're not focusing on building unique mechanics, then why don't you just like build more interactivity with the world, like subtle things? So we can talk about Shenmue, right? I think Shenmue is like one of the greatest examples of interacting with your world, getting immersed in your world, telling a good story, and also having some decent gameplay in there. So it's like a blend of Virtual Fighter, a blend of, well, it's kind of its own thing. It was a trendsetter, you know. They
Yeah.
had the eyes system where you could, oh, hey, look, I found this cell phone, and now I can pick it up and move it around. It doesn't really impact the game in a meaningful way, but it's cool that it's there, you know. It was a secondary thing. Now they have you picking up pretzels and stuff like that, and that's the main feature of the game. You know,
You might need those pretzels, man.
Yeah.
They might do something. But I know it sounds like I'm just turning my nose up and I'm kind of snobbish about that. I hear myself, you know. But the thing is with it, I think it's setting a bad trend of future games, like placing too much emphasis on story. I have gamer friends that'll go into a game and story doesn't matter to them.
Well,
It's just
for me,
like, you know, I
story's
want to play the
usually,
game.
Like one of the most important parts.
What's that?
Yeah.
Like story for me is like one of the most important parts. Like if I truly like love a game, it's because
Yeah.
of the story and the characters and stuff like that.
I
Yeah.
agree. There's some great stories to be told out there.
I don't care that much unless it's like a multiplayer competitive type game. Then the
Yeah.
gameplay is important.
I just think it's a matter of people lowering the bar of challenge within games. Like it's saying that, okay, we're going to have a Naughty Dog game come out and have it be 12 or 15 hours long. 8 hours of that is going to be cutscenes, you know. At a certain point, I think they need to have a split. Like Metal Gear 4, you've played through that.
Yep.
It's infamous for this syndrome.
Great
Like,
game, I love it.
it's good whenever it lets you play it.
Oh, I like the cutscenes more.
Yeah.
You think so?
Like I play the games for the story. Like if I'm playing a single player game, I usually don't care about the gameplay that much. It's mostly about like the other stuff.
Right. Well, what is it about those storytelling games that you find appealing? Like, is it coming back? Can you come back to them, or after you've read the story, it's over?
I usually just play most games once.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think
Maybe
for
I'll play
some
it again
if
like
it-
10 years later or something.
Yeah, like if I come across like a port or it's like, oh, it's a HD version of this,
Right.
like all of the like I played most of the Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6 uh, when they came out and stuff, and I was at an age where I played it where I didn't really understand it enough.
Yeah.
But when the reboots came out for like Game Boy Advance and stuff, I replayed them, and yeah, you can still revisit the story.
Right.
And like I still get the same amount of enjoyment out of it. Like shit, I played the Paper Mario N64 game 7 or 8 times, and I still fucking love it. Just because it's like a compelling story. I love all the characters. It's just charming as fuck. And yeah, I can just
Right.
keep revisiting it because it's the same thing. I guess I don't know.
I guess my argument isn't necessarily to abandon story entirely. No, storylines can be awesome and they can be funny and charming, what have you.
Yeah.
But I feel like story alone isn't enough for me to love a game. Like, I have played through The Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us. I'll never play him again. Like, there's
Well, I
nothing.
probably won't play him again either.
Right. So, you kind of proved my point there. They're kind of disposable trash.
I can fit in like the palm of my hand the games
Right.
I'd play through multiple times.
Yeah.
I can't because there's something about it that even a failed idea makes me want to go back and take another look at it. Like there's so many people out there that have YouTube channels that promote like, was it really that bad? You know, like
Well,
10
I
years
told about
later,
10
games
years.
like become classic.
Like I'll play through a game once every 10 years. So like Walking Dead, I might play it again in 10 years when I forget.
I don't
about
think you will.
it. I might.
All right. Well,
But like I don't play games multiple times. I play it once and then send it back and then go on.
well, you're a GameFly dude. I guess like Jarrett and I have a different opinion because we're collectors. We go out
Yeah.
there. You're a collector too, David. But
Yeah, you got a shit ton of
Most
games.
of the
man.
yeah,
games I
you got a
already
lot
played.
of games, David.
You got Metal Wolf Chaos, dude. You're up
I
there.
do not have Metal Wolf Chaos.
Okay, let's switch topics. So,
Fine.
Okay.
there's this article called "Scathing Nikkei Reports Hint at Shameful Treatment of Staff by Dictatorial Konami Manager."
Yeah.
Dictatorial.
The dictatorial. It's like a,
Dictatorial.
yeah, it's
Um,
like a drug dictatorial.
So,
Whatever.
there about a month ago, I had watched this YouTube video by a YouTuber named Super Bunny Hop, and he had gotten an inside email from Konami or a Konami employee, basically stating what was going on, because like the biggest shock that we got aside from Silent Hills being canceled was that Kojima Productions was being shut down. Kojima was then a contracted worker for the duration of Metal Gear 5, and then he was going to be let go. And then the CEO came out and said, yeah, we're going to focus on gambling machines. We're going to focus on mobile development. So all of those alone are just, that was shocking news because growing up, Konami made some of the best games I've ever played. Would you agree with that, David?
If you're talking about Rocket Knight Adventures, then yes.
Yeah, I get that'll fall under the umbrella. Of course I'm talking about it. That was a game I had in mind.
Castlevania.
Castlevania.
I never really played Castlevania when I was a kid. I didn't know it existed.
Do you acknowledge that it's a quality title?
Symphony of the Night was good.
Yeah, hell yeah. Koga Igarashi.
I played
He's
Symphony
got,
of the Night and the Shadows of the Colossus one. Those are the two I ever played.
Shadow of the Colossus is not Konami.
No, but the one that's like Shadows of the Colossus.
Which
What's
one
that?
is
Lords of
the
Shadow?
N64
Yeah,
one? Oh, Lords of Shadow, right.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
those
played
two.
through I couldn't get through that game.
And I played, when I was a kid, I played the Genesis one, but it was way too hard.
So Konami had a lot of talent under one roof. To me, they represented Ultra games, and if you don't know about this, the NES housed the NES for Nintendo in general. They said a company can only put out X number of titles per year, right?
It was to fight off the Atari syndrome when people would pump out games like every week, and they were all
Right, and I
Yeah.
think it was smart, but there was a loophole. You could create a kind of shell company, right? You could say,
Yeah.
"Oh, we are Ultra Games, and we're releasing this Turtles game," and it was basically Konami. So Ultra Games was their shell company that would release NES titles to kind of get around that loophole, and they released the Ninja Turtles games on the NES. So I was really a big fan of that.
Yeah.
They released Castlevania. My favorite RPG series, Suikoden.
Yeah.
They were responsible for that. They released a lot of odd games for the PS2, but they were I mean, like the biggest titles they developed in my mind were Metal Gear, of course. They're
Yeah.
always going to be known for Solid Snake.
Mhm.
So David, how many of the Metal Gear games have you played through?
I played through all of them except I haven't played through Ghost Babel.
Is that the
It's
is
like
that
for
the
Game Boy Color.
Oh,
Oh
yeah, yeah, I've
yeah.
played
And I
that one.
never played through the second one on the MSX. I played through like half of it, and then I never
I'm
finished
gonna
it.
get some light in here.
Yeah.
BRB.
Yeah. I say from your fucking cave. Jeez. There you go. That's better.
All right. So you played through all of them.
Yeah.
What's your reaction to Konami so far and how they've treated? I mean, in your mind, is Metal Gear 5 the last Metal Gear game that Konami will ever produce?
Well, I think it's dumb what they're doing, but B, I, I mean, because this game's like one of their like few big franchises that they actually have,
Right.
Mhm.
and it's been huge forever, and it's just dumb that they're just like not valuing that, I guess. But I don't think it's gonna be the last Metal Gear game. I mean,
What
there's
about like third parties? Do you think they're just going to license it out to someone else? Because they did that with Rising, and Rising turned out to be
right, yeah,
kick-ass.
I'm sure they'll do other stuff like that, and like I'm sure there'll be like a Rising 2 someday, and I'd be fine with that. Like I liked that game a
Right.
lot.
Mhm.
But this is it, man. I mean, we're
This is
30
the
days
one problem
away
with this.
from Metal Gear 5.
This is not a trilogy. It's like the two trilogies with the Solid Snake and the Big Boss, everything coming together. Just that part's done, but I'm sure they'll bring it back at some point,
Mhm.
Right.
in some capacity.
I don't know. Like,
A pinball
Konami's been
slot machine.
on my shit list for a while. That's to say, like, to get on my shit list, it must have meant that I cared about you at one point. I really still do care about you.
Like,
And
is
Konami
Capcom on your
has,
shit list?
yeah, you've been on my shit. You're still on the shit list, man. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's because of what they've done with Silent Hill.
You love Silent Hill.
Silent Hill is my favorite horror series. It's one of the best. If we're talking about storylines, the gameplay. It's one of those situations where the gameplay isn't the best, but the story carries it. Okay.
Mhm.
They
Oh,
had
you
some
said that
talented
story,
producers,
it wasn't important, and gameplay was the most important thing.
but there's also multiple
Mhm.
endings, and there's challenge involved, and different difficulties. Yeah. So,
Mhm.
but there is gameplay there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
So I'm one of the fortunate few that has the PT, the playable trailer, on my PS4.
Yeah.
So David doesn't own a PS4 just yet. So unfortunately, he'll never get to experience PT on his own, unless he comes over to my house, which you're welcome
People
to.
play it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Disable it,
but
though?
that's not the same.
I thought they released a patch that made it so you couldn't play it anymore.
No, you can't re-download it, and
Well,
you
I saw
can't.
like a week later, like people who had it downloaded, it was becoming unavailable.
I can still play it. I got all the recent
Okay.
patches. I won't update. Unless it's the game itself, which I'm too paranoid to patch. So
Yeah,
if
maybe it was an update for the game.
yeah, if anyone patches the game, I feel sorry for them if they can't play it again because that sucks. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's Konami. But I still don't see why they don't try and make money off that because knowing Konami and how greedy they are now, why it would just put it on a disc or sell it. But
Yeah.
I think they don't want to acknowledge Kojima. I mean,
Right.
they've gone as
So
far
weird they
as
like took his name out of the credits and everything.
how do
Yeah.
you do that?
Yeah.
You can't erase Stephen King from
Shining.
it or The Shining if he ever molested children. He still wrote that book.
Yeah.
And then Kojima didn't even do anything really.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, why? That's so
It's so
sad.
weird.
He put his heart and soul into it. And did they patch him out of Ground Zeroes? Because Kojima is a character in
Right.
Ground Zeroes.
Mhm.
So I don't know. That's kind of weird to me. But
It is.
so let's
really
talk about
weird.
this report.
Well,
So
speaking of patching out, do you hear what they're doing with Destiny?
no.
So you know how Peter Dinklage does the voice of your ghost, the little robot?
Oh yeah.
Someone else is doing it
Yeah,
now.
now it's switching over to Nolan North, and they're redoing all the voices, and
Oh my
they're
God.
patching out Dinklage.
Why?
Wow.
Is it just because he doesn't want to do the DLC?
No, because everyone said it was like the worst voice acting ever.
Really?
Wow.
The thing is about Peter Dinklage, if you guys didn't know, before Game of Thrones, he didn't have too much of a career.
He was an
I
elf. He was an elf.
Yeah, and that was what he was destined to be. He was kind of one of those gimmick actors. Like, okay, you need a
Yeah.
Vern Troyer type of dude. Like, I mean, like
Yeah.
he has a very limited range of roles that he can accept, you know.
Yeah.
And as much as people are accepting and stuff like that, are you going to make Peter Dinklage your romantic lead in your February movie release? Probably not.
Yeah.
I would watch it, yes, but I mean, they're going to watch it for the novelty of the midget.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Peter Dinklage didn't have a big career. He's probably not that good of an actor. He can do one voice, and that's Tyrion Lannister. Before he was in this movie, and I'm going to tell you what this movie is. It's called Death at a Funeral. It was
Yeah,
a
I've seen it.
remake. It was a remake of a all-white British comedy called Death at a Funeral, but there was a
Yeah.
black version of it, and it starred Chris Rock and Danny
Mhm.
Glover, and we also had Tracy Morgan in it. In this movie, Danny Glover is an old man, and he diarrheas all over the place.
Great.
And then Peter Dinklage comes in, and he is a gay midget lover of Chris Rock's father, who's like this dead black dude. And then since a lot of black people are homophobic, they're all, oh, gross, man, that was all fucked up. They dated this midget, and
Yeah.
that was basically his acting credits till that point. He was also in a couple indie movies, but for the most part, Peter Dinklage probably isn't that good of an actor.
Mm.
His voice acting definitely wasn't great.
I haven't played enough of Destiny, but I can imagine that, I mean, they only got him because right now he's at the peak of his career.
Mhm.
After Game of Thrones, he's probably going to be gone. After Pixels, he's probably going to be gone.
That movie wasn't great, but I'm not.
You went to go see it?
Sure.
Oh my, you did?
When it's in like the $2 theater or something.
Oh.
We'll
You
go.
went to go
We'll go see it.
Okay. Well, I'll probably catch it on Netflix just to kind of riff on it, but
Yeah, let's have a viewing party.
Yeah.
okay. We'll do a riff track on it. I don't know if there's anything to make fun of. I mean, there's Pixels is one of those types of movies that is an obvious cash grab. That's it.
course.
That's does anyone remember Donkey Kong or Pac-Man?
Yeah.
You know? Okay, that's it. No one cares. Not even 70s gamers give a shit about Donkey Kong
Yeah, no
and
one
Pac-Man
cares about
anymore.
Donkey Kong. We're not going to do anything about Donkey Kong.
Yeah, not this Saturday.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about this article before, we move to talk about retro games.
Right.
So in this article, we have Konami treating, basically it's one of those situations. Have you ever seen Office Space, like wherever they kind of fix the glitch with Milton? So Milton
Yeah.
is this character who's shit on by all the like middle management. They take his stapler.
Yeah.
And they tell him to move his desk around a whole bunch, right? So, to my understanding, in Japan, they don't have at-will employment. This is something that's in my state. I don't know if it's in Kansas, but at-will employment basically means that we can fire you at any time for any reason that's not
Right.
discriminatory, right? So
Yeah.
we can't fire you if you're a woman or your sexual preference or your race.
At will employment, you don't even need a reason. So I guess that's
Right.
the reason you just don't.
So they can, but they can't come out and say, yeah, it's because you're a woman.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
out of here. If they say that, then they're fucked. But if they say, well, we just don't want you around here anymore.
Yeah.
We're restructuring the company, right?
Yeah.
They can't do that. They have to have a valid reason in Japan. So they can't say it's because we want to move all our operations to gambling, right?
Right.
All the major talent has left Konami. So some of my favorite developers, like Tak Fuji, he got off before all this crazy stuff started happening. Hideo, it wasn't his choice. He was contracted out. All the Castlevania people, all the Suikoden people are gone.
Yeah.
Even their mobile studios, which is supposedly their bread and butter. I don't know about the Pez. Is it Pez?
Uh,
Pro Evolution Soccer.
Oh yeah.
oh, I don't know.
That's like a really
Probably
big international
around the world,
franchise.
yeah, not so much in America.
Weird.
Right. So it says working conditions at Konami have been reported as particularly harsh. Email exchanges with people outside the company are handled via randomized email accounts, and lunchtime breaks are regulated with punch cards to ensure staff are back at their desks at the allotted time. Those who run over the time are outed within the company. So they have intercom systems that will say,
He was
Jarrett didn't
late to
return to
work.
his
Yeah.
desk at this amount of time. How shameful!
Wow.
You
That's
know,
crazy.
outside of throwing stones at those, that's got to be pretty bad because obviously their culture is built upon, prudency, like being where
Yeah.
you are, sleeping at your desk, neglecting your family.
Oh, I'll sleep at my desk, all right, from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, it
Easy.
says another incident reported.
Well, I also
In,
heard
what's that?
about Japanese like offices. Like
Uh,
the better you do, the farther into the center of the room they put you because you want to be like in the middle of it, I guess.
Yeah.
right.
If you're a bad employee, they'll put you in like a window office.
Really, and you'd think that's what you'd want.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A window.
You're not in the center of everything. You're off to the
Right,
side.
you're not at the heart of the company.
You're right.
So they said another report and another incident is involved Facebook. So one Konami employee posted on his account that he was leaving Konami, and the Konami staff who liked the post were targeted and reassigned within the company.
Yep.
So basically,
like janitors and like working at a factory to build slot machines and stuff like.
right. So they're gonna put. So maybe you were in marketing or something, and you were obviously not doing a good job if you're working for Konami, but maybe you're in marketing or maybe you're like in PR, and then they're like, okay, now you're gonna start developing reels for our new machines.
They send you to the factory, send you to the slave.
So they're
labor
not
factory.
firing you; they're reassigning you to an obviously worse position.
Yeah.
To pay the same.
But I heard that
Damn it.
they were doing things like they were making employees rearrange their desks. So like your desk is you're on the second floor, now you're on the 14th floor, and you got to take all your stuff up there. And the next day it's like, okay, you're on the 5th floor. Like doing that. Not
Yeah.
only that, but
I mean, I guess
also
if your job is just moving your stuff around. That's not that bad.
I guess I
Yeah.
could do that. I mean, I did just, but if you pride yourself, like if that's your career, that's your life,
Mhm.
that's got to be
Yeah.
embarrassing as fuck and stressful.
Yeah.
Not only that is like they're trying to make it. It's like one of those situations like wherever they don't want to, like in America, this is what they do. They don't want to fire you because you can file for unemployment, right? They want you to make it so shitty that you'll quit first.
Yeah.
You know.
So it doesn't make them look like the bad guy in the
And
situation.
they don't have to pay you like a severance package or anything. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
So like my biggest fear is like these are good people. These are people that have made some amazing contributions to the gaming world. They had a vast amount of talent, and now all these people are resorting to Kickstarter or forming these tiny little companies. So I think Metal Gear 5 is going to be their last big title, and then they're just going to probably license out their brands, and that's it. I mean, they dropped the ball big time. And their employees. I don't want Konami to be one of those buildings where they have to build safety nets around the outer edge of the building where employees are jumping out.
Jesus.
Right. God.
And that's what it seems like it's becoming. Like, there are these people that are having to leak internal emails, or, when a big figurehead like Hideo Kojima can be, fired and it means nothing to them. What is it? What's your company worth to you? What's your brand worth to you? Having no faith. And I guess the next time I'll play Silent Hill will be at the casino.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
So this next topic is it's in dedication to my number one brother from another mother, Iwata. R.I.P. I love you. I miss you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you inked on my body somewhere.
Just
One
his
day.
big face, just on your cheek or something.
Hashtag I understand.
Oh,
Now I
yeah.
understand.
Uh,
Um,
so
so if you don't know,
which
Satoru
how?
Iwata, yeah, he passed away recently. There was a big memorial service on Chibi Stream. Uh,
That was
he
great. That was fantastic stream.
Iwata, we can memorialize him just a little bit, but he
Mhm.
was the CEO of the company. He was the face. He's one of the only CEOs that came out and talked to the public,
Yeah.
and kind of he interviewed other developers because that's what he was. He was a programmer. He's a developer, so he was in the trenches. And David can relate a little bit. He develops. It's not easy. It takes a certain pedigree person to commit to development and going from the bottom, like going from programming to being a CEO. That almost never happens. That's a
No, that never
self-made
happens.
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was an important dude, and we can talk about how the Wii U was or wasn't successful. But I feel like he has the Wii under his belt. He had the DS under his belt. He had Amiibo under his belt.
Yeah.
So despite some of the, always being kind of a step behind graphic wise or power wise, I feel like he was a very successful CEO. And in my opinion, I think he was leading the Nintendo in the right direction. He was definitely being more open than fucking Sakaguchi ever was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think me and Miles were talking about this a couple weeks ago. That yeah, Sakaguchi was like straight old school Japanese businessman. He knew it as a place that generated money, output products. That's it. Like they knew they did demographic things and this thing. They didn't really talk to people. Uh,
Microsoft was that way up until Phil Spencer took over.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking with Iwata as well. That was like Nintendo was one of the only companies that like you knew about them. They kind of
Right.
had their own like with all the directs, obviously. Like with E3 every year, yeah, you see the French guy from Sony and or from Ubisoft or whatever, and Sony's
Thank
reps
you
and
very much.
Microsoft. Yeah, but yeah, you see them once every year. But yeah, it's whatever.
I don't
Uh,
even know the new CEO. Like I know Shu Yoshida, I know Kaz
yeah.
Hirai, but I don't know who that chubby dude is. Like who looks like he's like born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's like, we
Right.
at Sony make the best
Yeah.
games on any platform. And
But
then he
yeah,
doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't talk
but
about the process of it.
yeah, but yeah, like with Nintendo, especially how often they did the directs and how, uh, like you were saying, he was a developer already, so he's been a gamer and he understands at least where we're coming from as consumers in video games and stuff. So there was a way more of a connection. I think that's why more people kind of side with Nintendo. Even you could make the argument that yeah, the nostalgia glasses. It's always okay when Nintendo does it, but
I
it's
I don't.
like they're yeah, no, obviously not. But it's like that's why. It's just because they made such a connection to all of us, and they pretty much shaped. I want to say, yeah, they paved the way for the rest of the fucking industry to even do what they want to do today.
I
And
want to
it's like,
say Iwata
yeah.
was the closest thing to Jesus Christ that we'll ever see.
Oh, you're gonna say
The,
your
the
father,
man
but
took a
yeah,
pay cut. The man took a pay cut. Do you remember?
yeah,
So his employees
All
could
I know about
keep
him
their
is like
jobs.
I'm at a couple E3s or whatever.
Right.
That's about it.
yeah,
Well, I think that's something that in the modern era, Nintendo was kind of innovating. Like, you are now, every company out there is public. They have to have a Twitter, they have to have an Instagram, they have to have some sort of public presence, right?
yeah,
Nintendo was like, you know what? All year round, we're going to tell you what we got coming in the pipeline. We're going to have developer interviews. So you might like some of the stuff we have to show, you might not, but we're
And
going to
if you
be
try to
honest
show
with you.
our stuff on YouTube, you'll get banned.
Okay. Okay.
We're just getting
Okay.
to
David, you
that,
got one on Nintendo. Their
yeah.
Angry Joe can't make an extra $2
Yeah, angry.
because he can't show Mario Party 10 footage. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's YouTubers out there struggling. Well, here's my thing. Iwata was a great man. He was transparent. He did the what I asked, so we got developer commentary. We had
Mm.
Nintendo Directs. I love Nintendo Directs. They're a big event.
Yeah.
They're something to get
I
excited
don't
about.
think I ever watched one.
Well,
You're
that's
not a
because
Nintendo guy.
you're not a
Nintendo
Nintendo guy.
You're right.
Yeah.
I watch like the recaps on Kotaku.
Oh God.
I said Kotaku.
Seriously.
Thank you, man.
Anyway.
Now we have a future without a leader that had all these things. We don't, whatever, unless Miyamoto, and I doubt this is going to happen because there's two guys.
Yeah.
There's one guy I'm not familiar with, and then there's Miyamoto, and I don't think Miyamoto is going to take over. Miyamoto is in that phase where he wants to sit down and garden, and come up with another Pikmin game, maybe,
Right.
or he wants to just kind of be an advisory role. Iwata was a young dude. He was in his 50s. Miyamoto's in his 60s, and I think he's going to start to step away eventually. But I just don't see it as Miyamoto.
Wii Music too.
Yeah, and I don't think even Miyamoto's latest games haven't been the best, or his ideas. Like, he fucking ruined Paper Mario on the 3DS.
Yeah.
I'm going to straight up say, I'm sorry, Miyamoto, but you messed it up.
Yeah.
And then Wii Music was supposed to be like this big idea. Like, Miyamoto, you gotta understand, not everyone likes music as much as you, or thinks that waggling a Wiimote's gonna be as a flute is a great idea.
Yeah.
So he's responsible for some blunders, but I don't think the CEO we're gonna have is even Reggie. Like, look at Reggie, Nintendo of America. That dude sold pizza for like 20 years. And he's good at selling things, but he's not good at addressing concerns.
Maybe
he gets
hire some outside person.
Right, and that's probably what's going to happen. They're going to source, but I don't think.
Will come take over.
Yeah, he jumped off that sinking ship known as Zynga.
Yep, that'll be hired
pretty
by
quickly.
Nintendo to make them.
I just don't think. I think Nintendo, like Iwata, was a flash in the pan type of CEO. Like, the future. We've got rumors of, what's the new Nintendo code name? Is it
NX?
NX?
NX. NX. Yeah.
NX, right?
NX. Yeah.
So that worries me. I mean, I'm an early, like David can verify, I'm an early Wii U investor. I had faith in the system, and I still love it. Every game that I bought for that system is great.
Yeah.
But now they're already in talks of this new direction. They've got the NX, right? We don't know too much about it, but we already have titles announced for it. We have a Dragon Quest game already announced.
Yeah.
And then we have these monoliths of VR, right? So we have the Oculus, the Morpheus, and
the new motion control, man.
And Steam has their thing.
What happened to
So we're not going to see transparency. I think we're going to go back to a world of doublespeak and lies and overhyped promises. And now they got a taste for that amiibo money pie, right?
Yeah.
I bought some amiibos. We've all bought amiibos. Nobody has a clean amiibo record.
Yeah, can you see them from down
dipped
there?
In there.
They're all down there. There you go. Yeah, you can see them kind of.
Double overhyped. Maybe Peter Molyneux will be the new president of Nintendo.
Amiibo is a shitty idea.
Yeah.
It's not good for gaming.
Yeah.
It's kind of useless. It's just cosmetic things.
It's like DLC stuff, but instead of paying like $1 for a new costume, you pay like $20 for a new costume.
And I like them. Some of them turned out pretty good.
Yeah, that's like whenever they came out, I was like, well, yeah, obviously it's gonna be like, oh, they're just hopping on Skylanders type of shit. But it's like from someone, Hyperscan, good lord. But I mean, from someone who's like, I want to start collecting figures and stuff. At least these aren't. I mean, obviously some of them, like the Marth one, looks derpy as fuck. But like, there's a couple of them that do look shitty. But most of them like are actually well done, well painted. I mean, some of them have random fuck ups with them, but for the most part,
those are worth a lot. You get a double blaster Samus, and you can retire.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot. If we could go balls deep into amiibo stuff like stock and rarity about shit and whatever. But
my thing about that though,
they
got a taste for something that's going to make them a lot of money. They don't have to try a new idea. They can play it safe. Everyone's talking about the big Nintendo vault with all this money that they made from the Nintendo Wii, and then they can't go bankrupt for another 70 years or something.
Yeah.
For me, it's Nintendo has always been the one that takes the biggest risk, right? So people shit on the Wii U for trying something new and failing, and maybe they didn't have the proper name. Why did they call it Wii U? Why didn't they have better graphics or hold out a little bit longer? I think that's okay. Like that was a hallmark of Nintendo's development process, and that was headed up by Iwata. Iwata made some huge fucking risks.
Yeah.
He put Nintendo out there with the Wii. You know, when the Wii wasn't exactly a catch fire when it first came out, you know, he really appealed to gamers that never picked up a game since like 1989.
Yeah.
And I think he was trying to also continue that on. But then, I'm going to say midway through after the Wii U was launched, he refocused. He's not making Wii Sports games. What was he making? He's like, okay, let's get a Smash out there. Let's get some RPGs out there. Let's announce a Fire Emblem Cross Shin Megami Tensei and make it a feature. Let's fund Bayonetta 2.
Yeah.
That's something that, okay, first year and a half of Xbox One, did you feel like you were proud to own that system, like they were innovating in any way, David?
I liked it. I mean, I liked the games. I wouldn't say it was innovative.
What was your
it the
initial
same games with
reaction?
better graphics.
Remember when we had that talk after that, after Don Matrix E3 on Xbox
Don
One?
Matrix E3 was terrible. But
Right.
then they just went back and canceled all the stuff he said, so then I was fine with it.
Right. They had to do that.
Yeah,
Nintendo kind of stuck to their guns, for better or worse. I wouldn't say as worse as Metric.
No, it was the worst thing ever. I was like, guess I'm not buying an Xbox.
This is coming from a hardcore. Like, how old's your gamer tag, David?
I got it in 2013, so.
Oh, okay.
No, your gamer tag.
Oh, yeah, I meant 2003.
2003.
Dang.
He is a legacy owner. He is an OG Xbox fan. I honestly, that's always been a point of contention between me and David. I've always been a Sony guy or Nintendo guy. David's Xbox, true blue American dude. But that's the thing. Like, even Sony, I'm an early adopter of the PS4. There's nothing I can say that is revolutionary about PS4. Graphics, is that revolutionary? A big fucking deal. Get a TI, get a Titan for your PC. You know. 3DS, revolutionary. PS Vita, what's the PS Vita got? Touchscreen. That's it. It's basically a phone, you know. So I'm just like the NX. I don't know what my expectations are going to be because, like, you know, Iwata isn't there. They're going to restructure the company, and they got a taste of this mobile pie. They got a new company under their belts that specializes in mobile development.
Well, didn't they say it's going to be Android? It's going to be like an Ouya with better graphics.
Is it?
They said the operating system's be modified Android.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I don't know. See,
I thought they said that like a couple months ago, and then they were like, no. But like, I thought the Wii was like Android too. Might have been probably not.
Like Power PC or something.
So, if we look at the Ouya and where it's at now, getting bought by Razer.
The Ouya. I got an email a couple days ago about the Ouya. Apparently now it's partnered with GameFly, and you can stream a bunch of games from like a streaming service to the Ouya. If you have
the FS Cast is brought to you by GameFly.
Yeah.
No, I mean I thought that's cool though, because what was it, that OnLive streaming?
Yeah. Right, and that was successful. I mean, like, you can go anywhere and pick up an online system.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, but I mean, the Ouya has a thing like that. You can stream from GameFly, like games that are running on their servers.
But Android, in general. So, like, if you're looking at Nintendo now, they've been more friendly to indie developers than they ever have been in the past. To try and get a dev kit on the Nintendo DS was next to impossible. Not so much for the Wii, apparently, because games like Ninja Breadman came out, and Anubis 2. But like that, I think that's a good thing. But I think that's easy to do because PS4 is also doing this, and Xbox One also has it. Like Xbox 360
360 was the coolest.
They fucking dominated indie
They
development.
had an indie game channel where anyone could just make their own games and submit it
X and
Yeah.
A.
and sell it. Yeah, X and A was the coolest.
And I made a game with zombies and it came out on there.
Mhm.
1000 Spikes came out
Yeah,
on there.
1000
Yeah.
Spikes.
Even Fez. Fez was a big fucking deal to Microsoft. They had
Rad
exclusivity.
Raygun.
Rad Ray Gun.
Yeah.
You know, that is, you know, if they NX comes out and they have a development kit ready to go, open source development,
Yeah.
that would revolutionize things. I don't think it's going to happen. Nintendo's always been a closed system, in my
Quality
opinion.
seal of Nintendo.
Yeah, the quality seal.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. They need third-party outreach.
Yeah.
Look at what next week. Zombie is coming out. Zombie, Z-O-M-B-I. It's not Zombie U anymore. It's
Yeah.
Zombie, like Lucio Fulci Zombie. It's coming out for PS4, Xbox One, I think PS3.
What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
What?
Zombie U came out on the
Remember
Wii U.
Zombie U?
Yeah.
Remember how big of a deal that was? Ubisoft is like, nah, no more exclusivity. We are now releasing it on PS4, Xbox One.
I never
We're
even heard about
retitling it
that.
as Zombie.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Well, now you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like,
I might rebuy
they
it.
lost
No.
Ubisoft, and Ubisoft was a big partner for Nintendo.
Mm.
Rayman Legends was originally going to be
Yep.
Wii U exclusive, and then they backed away from that.
Yeah.
So,
Save him.
Wow,
also
August
Project
18th,
Cars
you're right.
was another thing. Do you guys know
Yeah.
about Project Cars?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Apparently, the Wii U version was kickstarted, and it
Uh-huh.
never came out.
Of what?
Project Cars.
Oh,
Yeah.
I played
So
that
that's-
game. It was just
Yeah. That's what I'm worried about. Like, the future of the NX is in the hands of getting some third-party support. Nintendo's hasn't been good about that since the Wii. You know,
Yeah.
Wii U, 3DS maybe. I don't know necessarily how, like, if they got EA and Ubisoft on board, but they don't have a Grand Theft Auto. So yeah, so if you have something that's gonna sell gangbusters, so Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to come out for the NX?
The
Probably
NX.
not.
No.
I don't think
Nintendo's
so.
where Sega was in the 90s,
Mm.
like the late 90s. Like no one
Right.
wants to work with them.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
because they don't have faith, because they keep changing and developing these new consoles. So Sega's big problem was, okay, we got a new system, and 5 months later, or we got another system, we got a peripheral, you know? I think Sega was always kind of like trying to put a cast on their systems. Like, you know, they were trying to, like, oh, the 32X is going to save it, or the Sega CD is going to.
You
Like,
know
just
what?
more additions, right?
After doing some research into my 3DO, I have a theory that the 3DO killed Sega.
Really?
Okay, I want to hear this theory.
Oh, do we have a game theory?
Got a game.
All right. Take
All
us from Sega
Gather-
in 1995 to
Gather
the
round,
death of
children. Gather round to the
2000
campfires. This is Are You Alone in the
Okay,
Dark?
with
It's
Panasonic with the smoking gun.
Mhm.
yeah. This is a theory that not many people have. I don't
Okay. All right. Go.
All right, I'm
Okay.
so hyped. This is the best
Yeah.
thing that's coming on this podcast.
Go for it.
Okay, so the Saturn, there were no EA games for it, right?
Mhm.
Like
Right.
EA just didn't have anything for the Saturn, and then because I don't remember why they got pissed off about something, so EA stopped supporting Sega, and then like that led on to the Dreamcast not having EA stuff, and then not having a DVD player and all that nonsense. But here's my
Okay.
theory.
Yeah. But
The
here's your theory.
3DO was heavily backed by key members of EA,
Mhm.
and like they put all their
Like-
games
okay.
on the 3DO.
Like Madden. Yeah.
Well, like Madden, Need for Speed, all these Road Rash, a bunch of stuff was like they were like tied together really closely back in like 93, 94.
Right.
Mhm.
They like EA really wanted the 3DO to succeed, and that was EA's big thing, or 3DO's big thing was the EA support. And then the Sega Saturn came out before the PlayStation, so they're like, oh, direct competition. We're not going to put our games on the Saturn. People have to play the 3DO to get the best EA experience.
Right.
So that's my theory. That because
Uh-huh.
the 3DO was tied with EA, they didn't put the games on the Saturn because the Saturn came first.
BRB.
Huh. Okay.
So yeah, What do you think of that theory?
That's interesting. Yeah, I figure. Yeah, actually, I like that. That's good.
So people are like, "Oh, the PlayStation 2 killed Sega because it had DVD player and all that nonsense." It's like,
Like we were playing it. The 3DO came out what '94, and we
yeah,
were playing that shit. Yeah, we were playing it a couple weeks ago, and we were like, holy shit! Like
yeah,
with all the showcases and stuff they had with it, it
right.
was like insane how advanced it was in an era
Oh,
that was
yeah.
like Super Nintendo and Genesis were getting out. Like I don't know if the
Right.
32X or the Sega CD was out at that point, but it's like
No,
God,
it wasn't. I mean, the
yeah,
Sega CD I think was out yet, or was out. But like
yeah,
the
Mhm.
3DO, I was comparing the specs. It was pretty similar to like the Saturn and PlayStation, but it came out like 2 years earlier.
Really?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
see, that's crazy. I mean, like, I don't know what the specs are for the Sega CD, or
So the
was
Sega
like
CD didn't really
the
have much more specs. It was just like to play bigger media, just
yeah,
because it was basically for games that couldn't fit on a cartridge.
uh, or like the Philips CDI, like whenever that came
The
out.
CDI was like
I,
91, I
Oh
think.
my gosh. The
yeah, so it was
CDI.
like
I don't even know what the specs are on that, but I just think I think it was just like those. What do they call those Windows movie? They're not Windows movie videos, but they're like video CDs or something.
Yeah,
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 that's what it specialized in. I think that's all it did was it just had a
yeah.
read, not write, but I don't
yeah. It was
know.
just it was a interactable DVD. It was like an FMV.
Right.
Yeah,
And it didn't make the best games, obviously. It didn't have lasting potential. Now, the 3DO, it was
yeah,
quite the interesting system. Like, whenever you pop it out, like, so I have the version 1, and apparently David told me this is the worst version to have, and it's going to break and explode. I
yeah.
don't
Because the
know.
disc tray is gonna
Okay,
shoot and
I've
kill you.
never played anything on it, so I can't even tell you if it works. But
Right.
I think
No, Star Control 2, man.
this is my opinion on the 3DO. So, the Nintendo. The NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, was marketed in America not as a gaming console, but as an entertainment system, right? So they tried to make it look more professional, and that's why we end up with the gray and black
And
theme,
Rob
right?
the Robot.
Right. So
Raw
it's like,
fashion all.
if you look at the design of both both versions of the 3DO, especially the Model 1, it looks like a CD player. It looks like a
Yeah.
PC drive, and it only has one controller port. It's the most bullshit design that you have to plug. So I was watching David and Jarrett play 3DO, and they
Yeah.
had to daisy chain their controllers together in order to use them.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, there it is. Yeah, he has to win the controller.
No.
Show it off. Yeah.
This
Oh,
is
it's your
oh
jack.
wait, that's Jaguar.
Yeah.
That's an awful controller.
Yeah.
But
Go
here,
get it. Yeah. Go
it's
get your
like,
controller.
yeah. So the 3DO, in my opinion, wasn't necessarily. It was about the games. They had a lot of good games, but it wasn't as refined as a gaming console. Like if you looked at it across the room, you'd be like, "Yeah, it's a CD player, or it's just a PC or something," because there's nothing defining about it that says this plays games. Look at look
Yeah.
at that awful
Yeah. Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
controller.
That looks
Yeah.
like a Mad Catz
It's a
controller.
controller,
Fucking
and
nuts.
then zip, 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 zip,
Look at
zip.
those
There's the
pretentious
other
glasses
controller
that controller's
port.
wearing. Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
have
So
this
the controller port's on the second.
controller.
Yeah. Ugh.
This one doesn't
Look
have
at
a
that
controller port on
D-pad.
top.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
one does not have a controller port on top, so I can't daisy chain this one, but I have to plug this one into the other controller. Like
Right.
Yeah.
such. Let me show them docking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Here we
interesting
go.
from. Oh, look at that. Look how stupid we were naive back then.
Right.
Got my
But
video. Here we go. Look.
Yeah.
Look how cool this
Right.
is.
That's nuts.
It's kind of like the Dreamcast where the cord comes out of the bottom,
Yeah.
and then you have that little slot you have to put the cord in. What were they thinking?
Right.
here's
That's
the thing.
worst part about the Dreamcast.
I can probably
That's why it
name
failed.
at least one defining game for each video game system. Like you throw some out there, I could say like you're like 32X. I'd say Knuckles Chaotix, right?
Yeah.
I can't do that with a 3DO. There's not a single game on it.
With 3DO.
What'd you say,
Twisted,
Gex?
man.
No, I'd probably
Twisted,
say Star
man.
Control 2.
Star
Yeah.
Control 2?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about space
Dude,
shooters.
okay, I'm doing a review of Star Control 2 after my Jet Set Radio Future one, and that game is like nuts.
Yeah. So I've never once played any exclusive 3DO games except for
Mhm.
Twisted. I watched you guys play that. That
Yeah.
was funny.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was
Armadillo.
great.
Oh, there's another game just like Twisted. It must be the same company, but it's
Uh-huh.
like some weird like communist Soviet, like your war, like you're prisoners of war or something, and you're playing for your freedom.
Weird.
Crazy. That sounds like a Running Man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nuts.
Yeah.
Huh.
So the 3DO was one of those magazine systems, I call them, or like mail order systems,
Yeah.
like wherever you never went into a game store and say, "Hey, look, there's 3DO
No.
games." It's like, "Hey,
You
you
saw all your
got
friends playing Cyberdillo, and you needed to
yeah,
get on that.
you got
Yeah.
Electronic Gaming Monthly or something, and
Yeah.
there's like a little card that you'd pull out, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna pay $70 for this one game."
Right.
I just never saw it as a contender, but
No.
for me, I miss that in a way because there aren't
Weird
systems
competitors
that come
like that
out. Yeah,
anymore.
weird things like that come out. Now it's like we've got 3 major companies in PC,
Well,
of
not
course.
just 3 majors. Like, well, I guess there is. Like, the Ouya is kind of like that, but it doesn't have its own really library of games.
Right, it's just a phone. The Ouya is still the Android OS, right? It's
Yeah.
essentially a phone in a funny little case.
Yeah.
I guess you can make the argument that yes, that all consoles are just like
No,
really
I guess there
low-end
was
computers.
like Towerfall and Amazing Frog were on the Ouya before being ported.
Well, they had a
Yeah.
clause that said that they had to be for a certain time. There's actually this big controversy
Right.
where they promised up to $1 million. They had after that they had a budget for like $1 million where indie developers are like, okay, if you make your game exclusive for the Ouya, we'll give you a chunk of money here, a chunk of money after you're near the beta stage, chunk of money after the game releases, and maybe a chunk of money later on. And then Towerfall was part of that, and so was Amazing Frog, and I believe a couple other games.
Duck game.
Yeah.
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 The Ouya didn't. The Amazing Frog is just kind of one of those like ridiculous engine,
It's
like
fun. I like it.
ragdoll physics
They
and
added,
slapping
they added
sounds.
4-player split screen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I thought-
neat. It's neat, but all the Ouya games feel like barely polished mobile games.
Mhm.
And never like there's supposed to be this retro or cartridge-based indie
Oh
system
my
coming
god,
out.
I heard like Gamester
What is that
81 or
called?
whatever talking
Yeah,
about
it's
that.
a retro VGS. Like it's like a repurposed Saturn.
No, it's a repurposed
Jaguar.
Jaguar.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, it like
Jaguar case.
yeah. Do you have your Jaguar with you? Then the Jaguar game, like it looks exactly like the system, and then the games, the
Well, it's the
cartridges
same
look
thing.
exactly
Apparently, they
like.
used it for like dental X-ray machines, and now
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw
dental
those.
X-ray
Yeah,
cases,
those
Yeah.
images.
and then they're
Those
using
are
it for
weird.
this now. But I don't know what kind of specs are going to be in it.
I think it's just
Yeah.
another Android-based, like kind of like an Ouya, but it only reacts through through physical cartridges and stuff.
And
As
that's
far as I know.
stupid in a
That's gonna
way.
be super, super like rare to
Expensive.
find those
Yeah.
cartridges in like
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
That just seems like if I were a financial analyst, I would not say anyone invest in your company because it seems like your overhead's going to be way expensive.
Yeah.
Like to manufacture a cartridge, the Nintendo 64, like if we look at PlayStation 64, PlayStation, you could pick up a great game for $40. That same type of game would be
How about
$80
Star
on
Gladiator
64.
for $5?
Yeah.
Okay. What I'm
Right.
saying though is to manufacture the shell and the parts and like what happens like whenever your game doesn't work the first time around? Are you gonna have a patching ability? If you have a patching ability built into your console, then why do you even have physical hardware in the first place?
Cartridge-based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just kind of it seems cool, and I guess they're gonna dip into a very niche market of retro gamers. I think it's cool,
Yeah.
but
What kind of games are they made? Those like crappy unreleased Super Nintendo games?
oh
Yeah,
yeah.
they have like a small line of them. Like I saw the Kickstarter for 'em, and it was like, yeah, it's this puzzle game, it's this platformer, it's this super small RPG, and then just a couple other ones that they said were stretch goals or something that they were gonna have out.
It's
But
gonna
yeah, I
be-
mean, yeah, super niche, gonna be super rare, super goddamn expensive.
Yep.
Maybe not right out of the bat, but yeah, definitely collecting for it because there's only like 5 or 6 games right now.
There's
Yeah,
this
back then.
like if you specialize like in 16 or 8 16-bit graphics, I think that's cool that you have your own style, not really your own, but that
Yeah.
you're trying to tap into the nostalgia. But what I want to see is some developers take some 32-bit graphics, so those
yeah, I always
crappy
think about
polygons.
Yeah. I want that so bad. Like the really low res textures on crappy
Yeah.
polygons. That's a
Yeah.
good one. I like it.
Right.
There's this game, I think it's called 1998 or 1999. There's this actual Japanese developer who is a fan of the Clock Tower series and just point and click type of games, and he is actually doing something like that, and it's supposed to release sometime next year. But you never see developers doing that sort of style. And if we think about how generations work, there's a whole generation of gamers that didn't just grow up in the NES era, but also grew up playing those like crappy PS1 games with like low polys. Like even Final Fantasy VII. Look at Final Fantasy VII. It's an ugly game.
Well, but that's a good game. I think of like those old low polygon crappy games. I think of like Death Trap Dungeon or ODT,
Tobal #1,
or something like that. Tobal #1, or the dungeon exploring part of Airgees.
Oh my god, don't even get me started on that. Don't ever jump in the well with the giant octopus. Dude, that gave me nightmares. Man, we gotta play through dungeon mode on Airgees. It'll kick your ass. It is a mess around. It's like a roguelike thing. I don't know if Jared knows what Airgees is, but Airgees was an arcade fighter, and they ported it to the PlayStation, but in order to sell it in North America, they, for some reason, added Final Fantasy VII characters and a couple maps. Like, you play as Cloud, Vincent, Tifa, and Sephiroth. And it was fun, but, it's kind of niche. And they also had some cool arcade modes. I love Airgees.
Race mode and
oh my god, it's such a good game. But I'd like to see something like that. Like, you don't have people that develop in a 3D world. It's either 2D, artistic, platformer, or it's like 8-bit. Like, oh, like Thomas Was Alone is the shittiest looking game I've ever seen. It's stupid. I don't care how, like, oh, it changed my life. It's such an emotional story. You play as a pixel. Way to fucking be. I don't know. I don't fall head over heels over the art style. It's mostly, is the game fun? So this new retro console, it's kind of hyper or oxymoronic to say new retro themed console, but I don't think it's gonna ever take off. What I do want to see though is how these 8-bit artists and stuff like that, how are they going to develop for something like VR? Is it going to be fun to go into a pixelized world where everything's super bright and you can't escape it and it's just empty? I don't know. I just don't know. I don't see that happening. Speaking of low polygon games, revolutionary low polygon games, we're going to close out today's very ADD podcast. We really just came out with the topics. There's not a lot. It's a slow news week. That's for sure. But we're going to talk about one of my favorite franchises of all time, Resident Evil. No news on Resident Evil 7 just yet. There's a couple of things, like, they've hinted at it. I think it's Resident Evil Extinction is the last movie that's going to come out, so we could talk about the movies. David and I would say, have the most experience. Jarrett's also played a couple of Resident Evils this time. Resident Evil it's an important series to me. It's also in a very a shaky company, or very bad hands at the moment. It's a Capcom franchise. And Capcom hasn't been in my graces. I mean, they're still making Phoenix Wright games. There's the great Ace Attorney coming out. They're still making Street Fighter. That's good. So I haven't lost hope for that company yet, but there was a time. Mega Man, of course. We all know the story. But Resident Evil was a pioneer in survival horror. It wasn't like Alone in the Dark. It didn't invent the wheel, but it refined the wheel. Resident Evil came out in 1997 or 8, I believe. It was the first title that I got a funny story about this. So, if you don't know what Funkoland is, Funkoland was former GameStop. And the PlayStation 1, my friend had it, and he was a redneck, and he had Madden and all this other shit. And I thought that's all PlayStation 1 had to offer, right? So, back when you would go to a video game store, you could play consoles. They actually had a spread, like here's a NES, Super Nintendo, everything they were selling you could play and make decisions, right? So the PlayStation 1 would just come out not too long ago, and so my mom went over and was like, what kind of games are in here? Show me some of your best games. And for whatever fucked up reason, I'm like maybe 7 years old, 8 years old here. For a fucked up reason, this employee had a wild hair up his ass, and he pulls out Resident Evil, and he pops it in there. And I sat there with my mom, and obviously it's tank control. So like it's my brain trying to understand how to move a character in a 3D space. So he's kind of having to like play this game for me. And he shows me the intro, and it's like a movie and stuff, and it's really scary. And then he gets to that infamous part wherever the zombie's just eating that dude, and it turns around and it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
I'm just like I had the controller in my hands, and I didn't know how to move, and the zombie just ate me, and I was fucking terrified. And it looks crappy now, it looks cheesy now, and I like 80s horror movies. It's kind of cheesy in retrospect, but I was like, Mom, I don't want this system. Like I don't want to play anything. I'll just play.
I remember the first time I played a PlayStation.
Yeah.
It was at Target when I still lived in Wisconsin, and it was Battle Arena to Shinden.
Mm-hmm.
And they had that in the demo kiosk, and I remember you could be that knight guy and do.
That's such an odd game to latch onto a system to Shinden. Yeah.
Shinden.
What about Resident Evil? What's your first experience with Resident Evil?
My first experience with Resident Evil is I went to, I think it was Holiday Video, and I rented it.
And you rented the first one?
Yeah, the first one.
The director's cut or the original?
Director's cut. Okay,
so the director's cut has some improvements and then some also really bad changes. For instance, some of the music.
No, that's the only one I ever played.
Right. So the director's cut also has.
And I never beat it because I never even got like halfway through it. It was too. I never knew what to do until
the director's cut was
and then I played.
Uncensored too. So you got the gruesome scenes, like in that zombie scene. What you don't see is this head dropping on the floor, like he decapitates this dude, and it's far more gory. So I played the original Resident Evil, and it had better controls. I played the original one that came in a long box. I do have a long box on me. I will show you. This is a long box PlayStation 1 game, so whenever you bought a long box...
Oh, Terry Pratchett, yeah.
This is Discworld, which is one of my favorites. Twisted Metal came in that. Resident Evil did. Look at Mr. David over here. I bet he's got it. Yeah, is that the Saturn version?
It's the Saturn long box.
Yeah. So I have that one on there. I actually have the Japanese one that has some additional features.
Move it left side.
Yeah. So, David...
Jesus Christ. Oh, okay. Nice.
Right. So, the Saturn had default long box, but Resident Evil borrowed heavily from horror movies at its time, and it was one of those genuinely scary games. And it was scary for a reason. So I could talk about Silent Hill and say basically the same things, but it had a fixed camera angle, which meant that the camera would move around your character, around the world. It was just like a security camera almost. So it's like positioned somewhere, and then your character would move across the 3D realm. And they called this tank controls.
Yeah.
And it takes some getting used to. David probably doesn't like them, but I do because I think they contribute to the fear, because you feel like you're helpless. Like,
you feel like you're a remote control person.
No, well, I guess you could say that for any game, but I felt it made encounters with enemies that much harder to avoid getting hit, right? Okay, it was. I will admit that. But it also introduced survival mechanics, which is something that a lot of games are incorporating nowadays. Like, that's a feature. Like the game Rust, or uh, like any of your survival games out there.
Right.
Even Minecraft has some survival elements
This
if you
game
want
has
them.
4 bullets in
Right.
it. You better not
Yeah.
waste them all.
Right. So
Yeah.
Resident Evil was the first time wherever you actually had to plan things out and you had to pick your targets. You can choose to run from a fight, and there was also some obtuse puzzle solving. It took me a long time to work up the nerve to play one of these games because they can be kind of spooky. Like the most famous scene is when a zombie dog jumps out of, like, you're walking down the hall, a zombie dog jumps through a window and
Yeah.
comes at you, and you're like, oh shit, I wasn't prepared for this. I hope I have something to fight it, right? And Resident Evil is kind of like the first series that had kind of a continuous story. They dropped it and messed it all up with 4, 5, 6, and all these spin-offs and everything. But for the most part, it had some familiar faces and cheesy characters and cheesy one-liners. David, will you provide us with some one-liners from Resident Evil?
Barry. Where's Barry? Sorry, but he's probably...
Don't open that door. I hope this isn't Chris's blood.
The whole Jill sandwich thing.
You're almost a
Master
Jill
of
sandwich.
Yeah.
Barry's voice actor is the best worst voice actor.
When
He
they-
honestly
They actually
is.
called back to that. You know how it's like, Barry, where's Barry?
Yeah.
Barry was a DLC character for the Mercenaries in Resident Evil 5.
Was it
And
the
then-
same voice actor?
I don't know, but in the trailer, like there was like this black screen and they had like some stuff going on, and all of a sudden he just busts in. And he's like,
Here's
"Here's Barry."
Nice. I
I
never played that DLC, so I got to. So
Yeah.
Resident Evil is a very huge series. It's
Oh,
I
yeah.
would say it's influenced stuff. It's definitely influenced Silent Hill. So it came out first. It also, there's a bunch of spin-off little horror titles that kind of borrow the survival mechanics. But
Alone in the Dark.
Alone in the
on
Dark,
video.
right? Alone in the Dark was first, though. Alone in the
I
Dark
know.
was first. But
Yeah.
the later Alone in the Darks did borrow from Resident Evil. Like if you play the new Nightmare,
Yeah.
it's more of like a shoot 'em game.
Yeah.
Resident Evil was a series that I cared immensely about. Now, you guys haven't played Resident Evil 2, but everyone holds that up as the pinnacle or the peak of the series. I disagree with that, but it's really good. Like,
What's your favorite in the series? The
my
remake?
favorite is Remake. And I would say that that's many people's favorite, considering that it's one of the highest-selling HD remakes out there.
Yeah.
You have, and that blew my fucking mind because, like, who else remember that? It failed on the GameCube, and I did buy it when it first came out, but nobody bought a GameCube to play horror games or shooter games. Like,
Right.
Resident Evil 4 didn't sell like gangbusters until it came out on the PS2, and then
I have
subsequently
4
win.
and Eternal Darkness
Right.
on the GameCube, and those are the only 2
Yeah.
games I personally bought for it when my sister had one.
Right, and I did too. I loved it, but Resident Evil was a series about evolution. It listened to its fans, so like it was one of those games that I could trace the evolution with each subsequent series. They tried something new, and they tried to top themselves every game. There's something wacky. There were more grotesque monsters. There were more weapons, more characters, right? So if we look between Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 2 was 2 discs long. It had 2 simultaneous protagonists, so either you could play as Claire Redfield, who is the sister of Chris from the first one,
Right.
or Leon Kennedy, who is now a staple in the series, and he's also a leading man in the movies too.
Right.
And pretty boy, he's a cute dude.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2, Hideki Kamiya, director of Bayonetta, director of Okami, Beautiful Joe, worked on that, and Devil May Cry. So
Yeah.
he had his touch on that game. So if you haven't played it, David, I'd recommend playing it. It's worth your time.
Someday.
It has some of the most wacky ports in existence. So it came out on PlayStation 1. It was ported to N64, which was crazy, with cutscenes and
Yes.
everything. It was ported to the Dreamcast. It was ported to the PC, and
Was it on
in
the
my
Dreamcast,
hand,
or is it only GameCube?
it's on the Dreamcast, and
I
it's
thought it was.
It's on the GameCube, and it's on this motherfucker right here. This is what was
What is
called.
that, Miles?
That is a Gamecom. It's
A
like
tiger.
it's like a black and white calculator
That was
in your
their
hand.
evolution of the R Zone.
Right. So Resident Evil 2 is on basically a calculator, and it doesn't have voice acting, but it has sound samples. It's really
Yeah.
neat. And now there's talks of an HD remaster of Resident Evil 2. Capcom is like fielding people's interest in the series. And this is kind of crazy because there are two camps of Resident Evil fans.
Yeah.
Okay? And I fall into a little bit of both. Here's the camps. The camps are Resident Evil 1 through 3 fans,
Yeah.
and then there's everything after 4.
I like 3 because you can start with a machine gun.
Right. 3 is interesting. 3 I feel is kind of the pinnacle. I would say the Outbreak series is the pinnacle. I really love those, but that's another story.
I never had a chance.
Let's just talk about the mainstream shit. So 1 through 3 are my favorite because they were cheesy. They didn't take themselves too seriously. They had some good weapons. There was scary. And then Resident Evil 4 came out.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 4, if you don't know the story behind it, it was originally going to be more like the older style. I didn't include Code Veronica. That was another one, but
it
was going to be more
a little bit of that one.
It was going to be more like
I played through Dino Crisis.
Dino Crisis is also like a Resident Evil. That's another topic for another day. Resident Evil 4 started off. They actually had I think like 60% of it done, and it was going to be like a clock tower type of game, like where there would be ghosts that chased you around and stuff like that, and you'd be Leon, and he would be infected with a virus, and he would have all these powers.
Yeah.
That spun off into Devil May Cry. They said, fuck it. This is getting too crazy for Resident Evil. Let's put it in Devil May Cry. And lo and behold, we have an amazing series.
Yeah.
Then they kind of repurposed it, and they said, let's retool this, and let's create a third-person shooter called Resident Evil 4.
Yep.
And to its credit, Resident Evil 4 reinvented the third-person shooter. If you didn't have Resident Evil 4, you probably wouldn't have Gears of War.
Mm-hmm.
Is that too much of a leap? Is that too much of a leap?
No, it did change the way that third-person shooters like controlled, and like that over-the-shoulder cam. That was the first game with it.
Yeah, that was the first one. So Resident Evil 4, it wasn't about zombies. It was kind of like 28 Days Later. You had infected people. Okay?
It's also really silly because you fight like a midget Napoleon guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Magic roller coaster and stuff like that.
It still had cheese, like instead of an 80s horror movie cheese, it had an 80s action like Schwarzenegger cheese or a Stallone movie cheese, and it was good. It was good, and then it introduced QTEs.
Yeah.
So now some of them work. I love the knife fight. I think the knife fight is pretty cool. But the Crash Bandicoot running from a boulder shit I could do without. Then again, Resident Evil 1 had running from a boulder. We won't get into that.
Yeah.
Resident Evil became about how can we spend the most amount of money and broaden our audience, because we just had a random flash in the pan success with Resident Evil 4. They re-released Resident Evil 4 on everything. You can even play it. I have Resident Evil 4. I bought it like 5 years ago. It is on my iPhone. Yeah, you can play it on there. And I think that also has to do with David's favorite part of Resident Evil. And what would that be? What mode is your...
Oh, the Mercenaries.
Mercenaries, yeah.
Yeah, especially, specifically the one that started in 4. Like, I know I played it in 3 a little bit and it was okay, but like the one that started in 4, like the time trials, or when you're going for like the score attack and stuff like that. Like, I thought that was awesome.
Right. I liked it in the older games because like you could pick your character and they'd have limited supplies and you just fought for time. And that was Resident Evil 4, and I think that continued on Resident Evil 5 as well.
6 was a little bit different, but it still had stuff like that.
I feel like in 1 through 3 and Code Veronica, Mercenaries was an afterthought, and then Resident Evil 4 and 5 especially, Mercenaries was the draw.
Well, there was a whole game on was it the DS? That was just
3DS. It was called Mercenaries, I think. Just Mercenaries.
Yeah, there was Mercenaries and Revelations. I played Mercenaries for a little bit on 3DS. It's actually not bad.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I like that. That's cool. It's fun, but then it's kind of like whenever your favorite artist or favorite band comes out and they release a really shitty album. So it's like Green Day, right? They forgot what got them there. Forgot what got them famous. Forgot their identity. Yeah. Picked up some eyeliner, and now here we are. I think that's what happened with Resident Evil. It lost its way. Um, I would have liked to see, and then they've made this promise several times. Like I haven't played Revelations 2. I played Revelations 1, pretty good.
I've only
Mhm.
played 2, and it was pretty
Yeah.
average.
Right. Um, I think that's always been my strong suit. I think that's what they should return to. They should have a core single player experience where it's spooky and scary, and there's some good atmosphere to be enjoyed. And then they
Yeah.
should also have that awesome mercenary. So if you just want to be the casual guy that wants to play mercenaries online or team deathmatch, have that there. But
Mhm.
don't ruin that by integrating more QTEs and more action set pieces. Like we can talk about the botch mess that is Resident Evil 6. David,
Mhm.
did you enjoy that game?
I thought it was like okay-ish. Like it wasn't as good as 4 or 5, obviously, but I
Right.
didn't hate it. I feel like I think the thing didn't like or I liked least about it was that they, for whatever reason, took out like unlocking and upgrading weapons.
Really? Oh yeah, like okay, so in Resident Evil 4, one of my favorite parts is the attaché case. You
Right.
get it's inventory management inside a suitcase. It sounds stupid, I know. But you
Mhm.
could there's also the merchant. He was like one of the best characters in all Resident Evil.
What are
You
you
come out and be like,
buying?
"What are you buying?
And they
What are you
took that out in
selling?"
6, and it was
Yeah,
dumb.
so like that was kind of cheesy. They took that out completely, and also it's now hot swapping on the fly. So it's like, okay,
Yep.
here's some herbs, mix on the fly and use it, and then there's your partner that you're forced to have. I
Yeah.
think that was kind of like one of the worst parts. Now co-op can be fun somewhat, but the story doesn't make any sense now. Now, the
No.
story is dumb. So if you're not playing single player for story, what are you playing it for? And the partner system, it's not scary because you have somebody watching your back.
Yeah,
It
but
was
5
all
was that way too.
yeah. Resident Evil, Resident Evil 5 is not scary at
No, it's
Mhm.
all.
not.
Um,
And
Yeah, I
it's
played
really
through
they had the
the.
same issue with um, Dead Space 3.
oh my
Yeah.
god. And then here's the thing, Dead Space 3, I kind of
Not a bad
enjoyed it
game.
a little bit, but there was nothing scary about it.
No, they took that out and they
Nothing
had
at all.
co-op and they.
Dead Space 1 is my favorite. I will
Well, I
come
mean,
out and say
my favorite thing about
that's
Dead
the best.
Space 2 is you could completely customize your weapon. So I had a chain gun with a rocket launcher attached.
Right, so you got what you wanted, but at the expense of
Right. It's not
the
scary at all.
flavor, the style, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they had too many irons in the fire. Whatever they call it, the jack of all trades but master of none. So in Resident Evil 6, you had campaigns where you could play as Leon, and that was supposed to be more like the older style Resident Evil, more
Yeah.
suspense based. Then you had Chris, which is like your Call of Duty military shooter.
Yep.
Then you had whatever the fuck Wesker's son was,
Yep.
like the gymnastics QTE fest. And then you had Ada's DLC campaign, which is just shoot 'em up, right? None of those campaigns that I sit down and say, "Oh, I'm scared," or "Oh, this is fun," or "Oh, this is memorable." I cannot even remember what the plot was about any of those
I
because
remember. Wasn't there like a T-Rex you had to fight or something? I don't know.
that
Yeah.
sounds stupid on its own. Like, yeah, wasn't there a T-Rex? Unless it's Dino Crisis, you're playing.
Yeah.
I just
feel
think
there
like
was
Resident Evil has done some experimental shit in its time.
Mhm.
David had mentioned he likes Resident Evil Survivor. I liked it too. It was like a first-person adventure.
It
They
was
had
silly.
Dead Aim. My favorite spin-off is known as the Outbreak series, and I think that's the direction they should have gone
Yeah,
for
I never
multiplayer.
had to play those.
So if you don't know what Resident Evil Outbreak is, it was a title on the PS2. It was one of the only
There's
PS2
a
online
character
games.
named David King.
There is a character
Oh.
named David King.
Nice.
Resident
So,
Evil
I'm-
Outbreak, I actually have it next to me. I can pull it out real quick. I got file 2. So it was a game that you could actually work at and progress. So Resident Evil Outbreak, I don't know if you can see
I
that.
have a PS2 Slim, so I can't get the hard drive for it.
Right. It
Mhm.
required the hard drive, and they had a cast of characters. There was like 9 characters, and each one had a specialty. So that's what I liked about it. It's like, okay, this lady she has a backpack, so she can carry 8 items, but she's really weak. This lady's a nurse part-time, so if you want to mix chemicals and herbs and stuff like that, you can do that. David King was a mechanic, so he can MacGyver shit. So you can pick up a pipe, you can pick up some duct tape, and then now you got a melee weapon. It was one of the first Resident Evil games that allowed you to punch zombies or kick them or shoulder, like do a football tackle on them. And I was like, this is what Resident Evil needs to be about. It needs to be about like different survivors within Raccoon City trying to escape, you know? That makes it scary because these are people not equipped to deal with it. When you have Chris Redfield punching boulders, when you have like big military men with like an entire arsenal, when you just give dudes a ton of weapons like rocket launchers, it's not scary anymore. It's like, okay, well, I can blow off the heads off of everything, and now it's just I'm going to do that again. You know.
So then, what about Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City?
I don't know anything about that other than I heard it's bad. David's played it.
I played what?
Operation Raccoon City.
It's not bad. I mean, it's average. It's like a average third-person shooter, but you're supposed to play it online.
Yeah.
So it's like a third-person co-op shooter where the enemies just happen to be from Resident Evil. Like like you
it's Resident Evil
guns
just in name.
Fight like the Nemesis or something.
Right.
Of each level, there's like a boss that's from Resident Evil.
It sounded like a cool idea. Like when I thought about it, it's like, hey, a multiplayer game within the Resident Evil universe, you know, an MMO could have worked, but I don't know. I don't know enough about the game to come out and say it's complete shit, but the consensus is that it was shit.
It was okay.
And I think Resident Evil doesn't have a specific canon, so I can't be like one of those guys that comes out and says, oh, they're messing up the story, they're messing up the lore. It's not going to be that way, because I don't think they know what they're doing now. But
my favorite
the future
game is Shadows of the Damned.
Yeah.
Shadows of the Damned
was a good fucking
was
game.
the best Resident Evil. It's the best Resident Evil.
Yeah.
I think honestly that's where it should have gone. It's Resident Evil in many ways has become a parody of itself. So I think they should kind of make it ridiculous. They should just come out, user cast characters, and make something funny, right? If you use the movies, that's what the movies are doing. The movies just don't give a fuck about anything. Right. It's balls to the wall. Hey, you know, the Licker's a really cool monster. Let's just have a Jill riding in, just jumping through a cathedral window, just killing Lickers and stuff. You know, Mila Jovovich is my wife, so I'm gonna make her the most badass heroine ever to exist.
Yeah.
I love the movies. Like, a lot of people get mad. Like Silent Hill has this problem too. The movies have nothing to do with the games. It's like the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Well,
like
the first Silent Hill was pretty close to the first game.
The first Silent Hill movie is a decent horror movie. You can sit down and get scared, and I mean, there are some inconsistencies.
Well, yeah, but it's pretty good for a video game movie.
Yeah, and they switched up a few things. I mean, it's really hard to translate the atmosphere and mood and the isolation of a video game experience on the big screen and be entertaining. I like the first one. But Resident Evil movies, straight out the gate, it's like we are now a Jean-Claude Van Damme kung fu movie with bullets, and it's. You sit down and watch a Resident Evil movie, you wouldn't know anything about the Resident Evil series, know anything about the plot, and be entertained just by how ridiculous some of the choreography is. Like, if you just put it aside out of your head, this has nothing to do with it. They're fun movies. The Super Mario Brothers movies pissed off a lot of people because the Goombas are now reptiles, and it deals with this meteor that hit the Earth, and it has nothing to do with really eating mushrooms and growing big. Like, none of that's in there. Yeah. I could see, like, being in 1993, like, what the fuck? This should have been titled Dinosaur Dimension instead of
like, what the fuck?
Right? But
Mario's name on it, it'll sell a million.
Yeah.
Reading some of the behind the scenes of Super Mario Brothers is hilarious. Like, apparently John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins, like Bob Hoskins broke his arm, and at that moment he had to wear like this flesh-made cast throughout, and he has all these stiff movements. And he's like, you know how I dealt with the rest of that movie? He's like, I got shit-faced every single day on the set. He and Leguizamo would be drinking Jim Beam all throughout, and there were several driving scenes throughout that movie where they actually had to drive. I love that movie. It's funny. I love those movies.
Yeah, it's a good one.
you can sit back and watch that movie and just laugh because some of the jokes land, and like it's more about growing up in Brooklyn, being a plumber, and dealing with finding a dimension of dinosaur peoples than it is about saving a princess from a kingdom of mushroom people.
It's
It's
relatable. It's a
yeah.
at the base level. It's something you can and look at your life and draw examples from.
It's like some art school. It's like some art students. Like, okay, now you got to reimagine the entire Mario Brothers series. Okay, Mario's the plumber. They're in Brooklyn, and now now everything's devolved. Dennis Hopper is now a giant dinosaur named Bowser.
It's a
Koopa.
fanfic gone wrong, just in a movie form.
Right. It's
To say, but
it's
they're
pretty
both
good.
they're but the Mario brothers, so it's Mario, and Luigi Mario, and they're brothers, right? And they live in.
They
fucking
established a lore. They did something
Yeah.
that Nintendo's been afraid of saying. Like, who is Mario's father?
Yeah.
Why are they brothers? Like, why all these things for?
Yeah.
You know.
Crazy.
Resident Evil is I fear for the future of the series because like it's in the hand of Capcom's, and I think they're trying to win back good graces, so they put out the HD collections. The HD collection of Remake is good, apparently. Apparently they add some features. It's in 1080p. They put in new costumes, and I hear it's just awesome. And now they're doing it with Zero. They've already confirmed Zero is going to do it. And have you ever played Zero, David?
I have not.
It's pretty decent, and it's the most I would say it's one of the most controversial in the mainline because it's a forced partner, and there's no item boxes. You just like, oh, I got this gun. Now I'm going to drop it in this room, and I got to remember I dropped it in that room, and I have to come back and
Does
get
the
it.
whole thing take place on a train?
For the first section, then there's a mansion later on.
Oh, okay.
So it's a interesting idea, but I'm really curious to see with what they're going to do with 7 because now Revelation seems to be their new bread and butter. Like they had an episodic game for the first time. So did you play through Revelations 2?
I played half of Revelations 2 and I kind of just lost interest.
Right. Can you tell me anything about the story on it? Like why do you do the things you do?
Some person, like Barry's daughter's on some island, and there's like some crazy lady there controlling it with zombies or something, I don't know. And then Barry goes to save her. And
So you play as Barry in it?
You play as Barry for half of it, and his daughter has half of it.
Huh.
And
Cool,
so
that's
it
crazy.
goes through, and it's like when you're the daughter, it's like in the past, and when you're Barry, you're there like after the events.
Oh, okay.
Of her stuff going through trying to find her, but it switches back and forth between them, like as you're going through the same areas.
Okay. I like Barry. Barry's my favorite Resident Evil character. He's so funny. He has the best gun, he has the best beard, he has the best voice actor, he is the best dude.
Right.
He needs his own movie. He did show up in one of the Resident Evil movies. He showed up in the most recent one. And the actor looked like Barry. They had a red vest and fucking Canadian beard. Great movie. Great movie. It's the Citizen Kane of Resident or horror movies.
Citizen Kane of Resident Evil.
Will you guys go with me whenever the new one comes out, the final Resident Evil movie? Will you guys go with me?
I think the last one I saw was like, what was the one with the crows in the desert?
That was
the first one.
That was Afterlife, and
Yeah,
that was Resident Evil 3, the movie, the third one.
The third one was the last one I saw, I think.
Yeah. The third one had to deal with... No, this is going to sound ridiculous. So I can kind of, in a nutshell, explain the Resident Evil movies. So Umbrella is this medical corporation, like in the games, and there's this girl named Alice who works for them, but turns out she's like this genetic soldier who knows Kung Fu.
And psychic powers.
Yeah. And apparently there's like this whole underground facility. There's a million of them around the world, and they're super rich. And for some reason, this makes no sense, they unleash this virus on people, and they think because it's like spreading cancer, basically. It's like, we're a pharmaceutical company, so we want more people to have cancer so we can stay in business. And then so that's what their idea is for the world of the movies, is to constantly spread it. But everything's get out of hand, and then the T virus gets in the atmosphere and it kills everything, like all the vegetation, everything. Yeah. So now the only people that exist are raccoon employees, and it's run by Wesker, who's apparently the CEO of Umbrella, who is also a Las Plagas mutant that knows kung fu and is immortal. The last movie, this is the
Yeah.
funniest fucking scene. Alice, who's the protagonist, she goes to the White House, and you see it. It's like one of these moments, like Dr. Evil. The chair is back. And then you think in the previous movie that Wesker's dead. Nope. I am the president of the United States, and now you work for me. It's so great.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Those movies make me so happy because it's just like everything goes in a script, but
Yeah.
each scene has to lead into another badass fight sequence. Who gives a shit about the plot? Wesker is the president, and now we're gonna clean up all these zombies now. So, all right, let's close out this podcast. I gotta say, love Resident Evil. I wish it the best. I hope it gets better.
Yeah.
I want to play one more good Resident Evil game in my lifetime.
Right. So that's a
What
good.
was the last good one then? Do you think?
The last good, I would say Resident Evil 4 is good, but it's not a good Resident Evil game. The last good Resident Evil game was Outbreak File 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe a Remake HD.
Yeah. I definitely need to play more Resident Evil games. I need to grow some balls and play more spooky games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil and those other games.
So yesterday, Jarrett and I were working on the Silent Hill Shattered Memories review, and I was having Jarrett play through the game, and I was just straight up just yelling at him. Okay, I was like, okay, you need to go here, 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 go here, here, here. And
Yeah,
I was
we
like,
beat the
okay,
game in
this
4 hours.
And I told him, this is what's gonna happen next. This is what's gonna happen next. So I'm telling him what's gonna happen, and he was still like, oh fuck, like, and we were playing in complete brightness, and he knew what was happening. And I'm reading the scripts like, the guy will come out and say boo, and then the guy comes out and he's like boo, and there's
I was not scared. When was I scared?
You jumped a few times.
When the fuck did I? No, because I said the flat out, like the first jump scare, I was like, I've seen this a couple times, so I know exactly what's gonna happen.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll still jump a little bit. But no, the only parts that actually fucked with me were the only fucking shit that fucked with me was like the whatever the alien baby demon shits are chasing after you. Then
you have to waggle them off of you.
Yeah, then the controls don't fucking work. It's stupid as shit.
The controls are the worst in that game.
Yeah,
like seriously the worst.
Save it, bros. Save it for a Silent Hill cast. Anyway, Jarrett, we gotta get. I would like to have a face cam on Jarrett when he plays a scary game. I'm gonna revolutionize the YouTube video industry. Five Nights at Freddy's, 1 through 4, one round in the dark.
Me and David gotta play through those.
No sleep. No sleep.
All right. So thank you for joining us this week on the Friend Simulator podcast. Let me take some of my makeup off.
Oh, I missed.
I am Kirk Almighty. I'll leave the hair on. I like the hair how it looks. I am Kirk Almighty. I'm on YouTube, Kirk Almighty. I'm working on a couple things. I'm doing a Super Nintendo peripheral kind of review-ish thing.
Peripheral, like accessories?
Yeah, accessories, peripherals, controllers, that kind of shit.
Okay, cool.
And then a couple other things. I got some Game Boy games the last couple weeks. So
yeah, he bought all of them. He doesn't pirate games.
Oh
no.
He
supports games and game stores.
Emulation's from the devil, but I got all these games.
He is an
that I'm
honest
looking at
man.
with my huge eyes. So I'm gonna play through some of these. I got DuckTales 2. That's a good one.
Right, I trust him. Like if I were to leave Snow Brothers, DuckTales 2, and Jetsons, Cogswell Capers in a room alone, unguarded, I would trust Jarrett with those games.
Hey, your copy of Earthbound isn't missing, is it?
He's an honest man who buys all his games, and that's what I'm doing.
Exactly. But so yeah, that's me. So look for shit. I tried to take today off just so I could kind of rest after the crazy shit that we did yesterday. And I am joined as usual. Look for that fucking review. Hikikomori Media, the Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Shattered Memories. Is super cool. I am joined as usual by Hikikomori Media.
Oh, hi guys.
Hikikomori Media.
I'm the one who's been filling all the dead space during this podcast today. As I said, slow news today. My ass has been writing and editing. I've got quite a tall order, so like if you don't see a video on the site aside from this podcast, it'll probably come out Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I'm working on Silent Hill Shattered Memories is my first Silent Hill game review. I love this series dearly.
Yeah.
Jarrett co-stars in it. And we filmed some live action stuff. We will see. I don't know. I
Yeah,
haven't gotten that far.
I think it's gonna be pretty cool.
It's gonna raise some eyebrows. Some people are gonna fold their arms. Some people are gonna love it. Some people are going to send me death threats. It's one of those kind of videos. So that's what I got going on, and I don't know what I'm gonna play after that. Maybe the new Lisa game when it comes out later this month.
Yeah.
And you can follow me at Hikikomori Media on Twitter. You can hashtag FSCast, FS, that is Friend Simulator Cast on Twitter. If you want to suggest topics, please do. Please suggest one topic. It would be so nice. We would shout you out. We would be so thankful.
Yeah, we'll talk about you online. And we are joined for the second week in a row with David King.
Yay.
King Game Review, KGR.
Follow it if you're not already watching it on this
Hashtag
channel.
I am Breadcast.
Yeah, Breadcam.
Who put this here?
Which way?
Not
You Nintendo.
I did, because your GameCube's behind your shoulder there.
Oh.
Yeah, there's two of them.
Well, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
I've been working on. I think the only thing I'm really working on right now is I'm trying to finish Jet Set Radio Future for review. Like I'm trying to 100% it, and that's a little tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that game.
I love
What
that
about
game.
Sega GT? Are you gonna play through that too? You can't neglect that.
I don't have that game.
Oh, I got the combo disc.
I don't. I got Jet Set Radio Future on launch day.
Nice.
That's a great game. It's beautiful to look at.
love
It's
it.
got some
yeah.
amazing music, and I actually watched somebody at SGDQ speedrun it, and
Yeah.
it's like one of those Tony Hawk games. Like I can never land on the proper rail the way I want to, or
It's definitely hard.
The
Like
jumping-
the game itself is easy, but
Yeah.
doing all the challenges is really hard.
right, like the jumping, like you jump really high, and it's like, oh, I wanted to jump over. I didn't want to jump up, like directly up in the air. I wanted to jump over the platform. That's always a problem. But cool, man. I'd like to see that. Are you gonna like upload the whole run, the 100% on there?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna
Highlights?
No, it's gonna be hours. I'm editing it down. I'm gonna do some sort of episode.
Nice.
I don't know.
All right, I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be sweet. So thank you for joining us this week on FSCast. It is August 4th. Join us next week, probably the same day, for some more juicy shit.
We're probably going to be talking about recent developments, especially because David and I Saturday are going to meet a very important man to the gaming industry, or at least gaming industry. A certain evil doer that goes by the name of Billy Mitchell.
Ooh.
From the King of Kong and the Fistful of Quarters. So look for a new promo on my channel. Maybe I might, cross promote with Billy Mitchell. I'll get his contact information. We'll get mine, and he'll be a regular guest on the channel.
Yeah.
Billy Mitchell cast.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I love you all. I will see you again.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Dave.